Yes, that's a big question this morning. Will Raila quit the repeat election? That's a headline on the front page of the Daily Nation. On the Standard, they seek to answer that, and they will be looking at that. My name is Fred Indimuli. Good morning. You're still watching Power Breakfast right here on Citizen TV. It's that time when we take a look at the headlines. This morning we're privileged to have Samuel Atandi, MP Alego Songa, on my immediate right. Next to Bwana Atandi we have Soipan Tuya. Incidentally, this is your very first time, the two of you, on this panel.
Yes.
It's a pleasure to have you, both new members to the National Assembly. Karibuni sana. And Bwana Karanja Kabage, of course, a very familiar face to this panel. Bwana Kabage, karibu sana. That's my panel this morning. It could grow bigger as we go along. Quick look at the headlines. Yes, will Raila quit the repeat election? That's a big question. That's the front page of the Daily Nation. Party maintains it will not take part in a flawed process. Kenyatta claims opposition chief will soon bow out of race. MP sues and wants Odinga compelled to run. The Standard has chosen to take a different angle to it, probably answering the headline on the Daily Nation. Uhuru says that Raila plans to pull out of the race. On the top strip of the Standard, I will not take part in the shoddy poll, says NASA leader. A quote from the president, we hear he is about to announce he is pulling out of the October 26 election. If you do not want elections, move aside and let the nation move on. You cannot keep the nation in suspense. That's the president who said that yesterday. The president says he has information that the opposition leader will withdraw from election, tells him to do so quickly to enable Kenya to move on. But before that, other very interesting headlines. On page 4 of the Standard, this story is highlighted on the front page. Jirongo declared bankrupt. Remember, Cyrus Jirongo, or Shakalaga Kwa Jirongo, who was a presidential candidate in the August 8th general election, has been declared bankrupt by the court. That happened yesterday. That story is on page 4 of the Standard and on page 3 of the Daily Nation. It is a big story. We're still in the electioneering mood. If one of the presidential candidates has been declared, at least a candidate in the August 8th election has been declared bankrupt, that matter is still in court. At least one of the presidential candidates has gone to challenge the fact that they were not included in the repeat presidential poll. So yes, all the candidates are still relevant up until now. But what does this mean to Bwana Jirongo even if the court was to order that all the candidates should be included in the ballot paper? What happens now that, let's start with Bwana Kabage, because you are a lawyer. What happens now to Bwana Jirongo?
Well, the moment you are declared bankrupt, you have no capacity. That basically means you don't have a capacity to hold a public office or even to have any credit. So there is no way a bankrupt person can even run for office until you are discharged.
Not even as an MCA?
Nothing.
Yes.
You cannot run.
So this is not a simple matter?
No, it's very serious. He will have to go through a process of discharge of the bankruptcy. And therefore, as far as he is concerned, it's out of question.
Former Lugari MP Cyrus Jirongo was declared bankrupt after a judge found he was unable to pay a debt running into hundreds of millions of shillings. They're talking about amounts upwards of 700 million shillings. He has failed to pay that. And there's also a different one. There's one where amounting to 700 million shillings, and I'm just reading directly from the story, which he owed someone. Someone had guaranteed him and allowed him to take a loan from a bank, and now he owes 700 million shillings. He's been unable to pay that. He's also in court. Court of Secretary General Francis Atwoli, this is a different matter, also sued Jirongo for allegedly failing to repay a debt of 110 million shillings. Yes, but you're also a lawyer, I do understand.
Yes, I am.
Yes. Once you're declared bankrupt, how long does it take? Does it mean that simply after you repay that loan, then you're discharged immediately?
There is a process that, first I want to correct you, I'm not a first-time member of parliament. This is my second term. Just my first time to be on this panel.
Your first time on this panel, I think that's what I meant.
Yes.
First time on this panel.
Yeah, there's a whole process that one has to go through to actually ascertain the amount of liabilities that they have, if there are any properties against the liabilities. You know, just like even a company, when it goes under receivership, they feel, they are taken out of control of, the properties that are called by that particular company. And so even for an individual, and like Mheshimiwa here says, they become ineligible to hold any public office, and so the whole process of receivership, the legalities that go with it, to ascertain those liabilities against whatever it is they have, and see whether they can be able to repay those particular, the loans and whatever it is they owe their creditors, until the process of discharge then is arrived at.
Wow. But that takes years or months. Does it mean that if he pays the 700 million shillings today, he's discharged immediately and he can therefore go back?
No. He has to apply to the court, and there is a whole process through which you become discharged of the bankruptcy. So it's not a very simple an exercise. In fact, when you become bankrupt, let me tell you how serious it is. If you went to a hotel, for example, and you ate food and you walked out, there is nothing they can do to you.
Because you're bankrupt.
You're bankrupt. You are actually supposed to pay before you eat. That is how serious it is.
And the relevance of this question is because of the matter already before court, taken by the presidential candidate for the Third Way Alliance, Ekuru Aukot, who wanted all the candidates who took part in the August 8th presidential election included in the presidential rerun. That matter, I do understand, is coming up for, I think, hearing or a ruling this week. So even if the courts were to declare that all the candidates go back, it means Cyrus Jirongo will not be there.
No,
yes,
he will not.
What does it mean for Bwana Jirongo, even politically?
I think if we are going to look at the Jirongo's position in respect to the upcoming presidential elections, I think Jirongo was not a serious player in the first place. And I don't think we can remember even the number of votes he got in the first place. So I think whether he's allowed to come to participate in the coming elections, politically it is irrelevant. It's irrelevant in my view.
It is irrelevant, but it would say something if all the other candidates were allowed, then you were struck out. You're the one who was struck out on grounds of bankruptcy.
I think let me go deep and say that we know that as far as Supreme Court ruling is concerned, the elections is supposed to be between Raila Amolo Odinga and Uhuru Kenyatta. And I know that there are attempts by Jubilee to introduce other candidates because of threats from our side that there will be no elections. So those maneuvers, I think, are not really realistic. But in my thinking, I think our position is that there will be no elections.
Okay, but the matter is still before court, so we cannot say what will happen. Yes, the court may decide to include all the candidates that were there on August the 8th, and if at all that happens now, Cyrus Jirongo's position has changed. He has now been declared bankrupt. That means he cannot be on the ballot either way. Yes, Esther Passaris, woman representative Nairobi County, has finally checked in. Karibu sana. It's good to have you with us this morning. After the demonstrations yesterday, yes, probably you could update us on what happened yesterday. I can see some very unfortunate headlines. Yes, there was a vehicle that plowed through part of the demonstrators. We do have reports of one person who was shot and injured. This is not what we expected. We expected, and we saw even relatively peaceful demonstrations in Kisumu, and we've seen that in Mombasa. What's happening in Nairobi?
I think the police finally got wind of the fact that, it's our democratic right. We can demonstrate, and they were actually providing us security. When we were gathering at Central Park, we were gathering at Central Park. We issued a statement there, and then we started walking, and the police actually came to us and said, tell us when you're moving and tell us your route. Now, the thing is, of course, there was a bit of distrust. We don't want to tell you our route just in case that's where you want to position all the tear gas. And when we arrived at Anniversary Towers, we saw lots of police with lots of tear gas, coming prepared, of course, in case there's something goes wrong. But what happened yesterday is, I think, either obviously somebody who's armed. Okay, he says his phone was being stolen. We don't know the case. Okay, but even if your phone was being stolen and you have a gun, you don't have the right to shoot. Okay, I mean, that's not why you're given the gun. It's not a life-threatening. You know, you use your gun when your life or the life of the person you're protecting is in danger. With equal measure, there are other things you can do. You can chase the thief, you can try and disarm him, you can whatever, but not. I mean, some of us have had our side mirror stolen on Uhuru Highway, and we don't have guns, and even if we did, we wouldn't shoot the person. You know what I mean? So I think whoever did this, the police should move with speed. Of course, with today's technology, it was immediately known who it was, who was the owner of the car. At the speed at which he drove off, okay, maybe he was fearing mob justice. But you know, when you also have the will...
And that's a real threat if you're driving through a group of demonstrators.
Yes, that's a real threat. But as you can see, the thing is, for me, there was a real threat to his life, but then he also endangered 3-4 other people. You know, I mean, it disrupted the entire process. We ended up trying to make sure that the victims were quickly sent to hospital. There were no ambulances around at that particular time. The police, I don't know where the police were at that particular time as well. But I feel there's something else that is wrong. When you have an incident like this, I think the police has a spokesman. And the spokesman should be able to come out and make a statement. Say, there was this unfortunate accident, there are these injured, the police has actually gone and seen who are the injured. The police issue a statement about what they are doing, if they've reprimanded the guy, did he have a licensed gun, you know, etc. But the police leaves this a vacuum, which then fake media moves in. And then, you know, you start having things that again fuel anxiety. I think if every time there's an incident like this and the police issues a statement, we're safer as a nation, and that's where I think there's a lack. So I think the police spokesman needed to issue a statement, not to release a 411, which I don't know if it's fake or true, that says, oh, there's now an Otieno and a Omolo who had guns in the crowd that shouldn't have had the guns. Maybe fake news, maybe genuine news, but the wrong direction.
What about Banakaranja Kabagi as a resident of the city? Of course, once demonstrations do happen, you totally stay away from that place, because it can be very scary for any motorist driving through a group of demonstrators. Probably what happened yesterday was a case of someone just panicking. Yes, and that could cause quite a lot of problems, don't you think?
First of all, I'm not fully seized of the facts about this particular case, so I don't really want to go into the details about it. The only thing I would like to say is this. I think we all must exercise restraint and caution, because human life, once affected by either an accident or even death, it is not replaceable.
Yes.
But equally, those of us who are demonstrating must appreciate we also need to be very careful not to block the motorists, at the same time to appreciate that yes, we have constitutionally guaranteed right to demonstrate, but we do so responsibly. I also think that all of us as Kenyans really should appreciate that these demonstrations or these disagreements are not in the best interest of our country, because there's so much that is being lost in way of business, in way of disruption of normal life, and that's not good for the country.
Yes.
We are building serious social problems that will have repercussions far beyond the demonstrations that we are having. But there is no question about it. Everybody that is involved, whether you are a victim or you are a perpetrator of whatever is going on, we must apply caution and restraint. That is most important.
So if you look at the images on page 2 of the Standard, you see some people who are taking advantage of the protests, and here is a photo collage of someone being robbed by a group of about 4 or 5 men, and there are those people who take advantage of such protests. They may not really be genuinely demonstrating for any particular cause. They just take advantage to carry out criminal activities. But there's also the misunderstanding that generally you see any demonstrator and you feel they're committing a crime because they're demonstrating. Perhaps even Kenyans, we need to understand that everyone has a right to actually come out and express their displeasure and their frustration as long as they do it peacefully. It is not a crime. Right.
Fred, under the Bill of Rights, we have an array of rights that each Kenyan is entitled to. Picketing is allowed. Everyone has a right to express themselves. You know, if they are displeased with any particular situation in the country, they are allowed to do that. But allow me to speak to the current situation in the country. I think NASA has subjected Kenyans to a situation of great uncertainty. We have almost a standstill in the businesses, you know, right even up to the grassroots level. Everyone is very worried and concerned about whatever it is that is happening. And I'm happy to see the headlines where I think Raila is contemplating on, you know, opting out of the 26th election. Again, when you look at our constitution, there is a whole process of, you know, a procedure.
And we'll be looking at that
procedure to the presidential election
on how you can withdraw from a race.
And nobody can be forced even to go out and vote.
Okay.
Let alone even to be a candidate in any particular election.
Yeah.
And I think the most honorable thing to do is we stop this. You know, they have a right to picket, they have a right to demonstrate peacefully and responsibly. But when you see certain acts happening, like the shooting of that particular gentleman, looting of property, destruction of a whole water system in Kisumu, denying those residents of Kisumu the right to the very vital commodity of water, then it just takes a different turn, and it ceases to be that right which is protected under the constitution.
And that's where Bonatandi comes in. I saw you on TV leading a group of protesters. I think it was in Siaya?
Yes, yes.
In Siaya. And where does your right to demonstrate and picket stop? Because, and where does mine start if I'm not taking part in these demonstrations? Even yesterday in the city center we saw some vehicles damaged, and that means there must have been missiles, stones flying around. We've seen roads blocked in Kisumu. Soipantuya talks about this destruction of a water system. These things are happening. We're watching them live on TV. Businesses cannot open. We saw that supermarket in Kisumu that was looted. Now, this is not the intention you were pursuing, but this is something that you have to take responsibility for, because you're the ones leading this kind of protest, don't you think?
Not really. I think, let me begin by saying that the police have specifically been restrained in the way they handle our demonstrators. And also, let me also say that during our demonstrations, I think there has been infiltration by people who are not part of us and who want to paint us badly by getting involved in criminal activities during demonstrations. That I must say. But in this case, and we have condemned it, by the way. We have condemned those incidences, those few occasions we have condemned them. Like in Kisumu, there are cases where some few people are involved in destruction of property, water systems, and also burning tires on the roads, you know. So we have condemned those incidences. But let me address this specific one in Nairobi yesterday, which I think, in my view, is basically a person who decided to attack peaceful demonstrators. Because from the manner in which that action was conducted, this is a person who decided that, and I think it could have been maybe a Jubilee supporter, senior Jubilee supporter, deciding to attack them.
How did you arrive at that conclusion?
Yeah, because if I'm driving on a road and I see a large number of people on the road, I probably would turn. I would not just drive towards those people. So this is a person who was actually trying to pass a message.
But you're not supposed to obstruct that particular person from going from point 1 to B.
But the policemen have licensed the demonstrations, and the policemen have communicated that the NASA supporters will be using this particular route. So as a motorist, you clearly know that route is being used, and you can clearly see that there's a large number of people walking on that road. So my view is that this particular one is a case where somebody wanted to send a message to NASA supporters that in fact we can deal with you. Partly, I think the so-called Nairobi business community is suspect in this particular one, because when we were
is this based on any police investigations, or just a hunch?
This is based on Mound assessment.
Okay.
Yes,
okay.
As a politician in Kenya.
As a politician, it's good you said that.
Yes.
You know, we've said a number of times that this alleged Nairobi business community, I mean, it's a disgrace. I'm a business person, okay? That is not the business community of Nairobi. And I have yet to see KEPSA saying, these are our members, okay? Even the photographs that you're seeing today, you can see that those were not ODM guys. Everywhere we were going yesterday, we made it very, very clear to all our demonstrators, no stones. Anybody who was seen with a stone, throw it out. We actually had no stones. That's why we had our hands up. Now the police, once they license a demonstration, they're supposed to be at the front of the demonstration with their motorbikes, all right? They're supposed to be manning the traffic, coordinated. The police have abandoned us. They seem to think that they only are supposed to serve Jubilee.
Yes.
They're not supposed to serve NASA.
Yes.
And that's where the problem is. And if it comes to allegations, we can only make allegations because at the end of the day, the police are not willing to investigate anything to do with the opposition. And that is where there is a big disconnect between the Jubilee government and what the people want. The people want an all-inclusive government, including members of Jubilee. Nobody wants to be a member of Jubilee, say an Uhuru presidency, where they're the blessed ones, so to speak, and the others are not considered to be part of Kenya. We want a government that actually sees everyone as inclusive. And you know, when you say, oh, you're happy about maybe Raila boycotting the elections, this is a serious problem. Okay. If Raila wants to boycott the elections, then we need to fix it.
Let me add something.
Let's not get to that headline yet. It is a big headline, and I want us to discuss it.
Fred, let me add something.
Yes.
Demonstrations are not only confined to NASA.
Yeah.
Recently, we saw Jubilee supporters demonstrating against the Supreme Court. And they were allowed to walk up to the Supreme Court entrance. They burnt tires there.
No problem.
And there was nothing. There was nobody complained. Nobody attacked them. So we want a Kenya that is or a police force or a government that can respect the rights of everybody.
Okay.
Not that when our supporters are demonstrating, some people are sent to go and attack them, or tear gas is thrown at them, and Jubilee supporters, they are actually protected. Okay. So we want to see level playing field as far as
arrest all those guys that were stealing.
I think, Fred, like I stated, the NASA people, they are within their rights to demonstrate and picket. But I think what my colleagues should be talking about is NASA taking responsibility for any recurring consequences.
What kind of responsibility?
Of their demonstration.
NASA does not restore law in the country.
And the protection has been given to them. But when they pretend to be picketing within their constitutional rights while destroying property, that should not be allowed. And I think, Fred, the other insincere thing, when they begin to say that whoever was causing trouble within their crowd is a Jubilee member, or the fact that the Nairobi business community is not a business community, I don't think there's any visible mark that a business community should have, to identify them as Jubilee or ODM. These are Kenyans who want to also, in as much as they are exercising their democratic right to demonstrate and picket, they must be able to take responsibility and not infringe on the rights of other Kenyans. Because it doesn't mean that when they have a right to demonstrate, it now diminishes the rights of other Kenyans to move freely and do their businesses, without any problem. But they are causing apprehension.
Yes. The biggest problem is us distinguishing between criminal activity and someone exercising their democratic right or right to demonstrate or to picket. That seems to be the biggest bone of contention here.
One of the most fluid statement that is made by all of us is that every one of us has a right to picket and to protest and to do anything they want to do. The only challenge there is with all that is that when you barricade a road with stones, when you carry stones, you carry even weapons on the road, is that peaceful demonstration? I dare say no. I saw that, for example, in Kisumu.
Yes.
Roads were barricaded with stones. All right? What are you talking about? You are interfering with the free movement of the fellow citizens.
Yes.
Now, you cannot stand around and say, oh, I was peacefully demonstrating. Because the moment you pick a stone and you block the road, all right, that act itself is a criminal offense. Itself, that act alone. Because you're not supposed to do that. So it is really incumbent upon, and I'm glad that the Mheshimiwa Pasaris here said that they have instructed their demonstrators not to have a stone, not to hold a stone. I want to congratulate you for that.
And they didn't.
And it's brilliant. That's the way we should be. So we must avoid any acts of even threatening other people. For example, even if you are passing through my shop, for example, you don't have any business entering my shop and destroying any of my properties under the guise that you are doing what? You're having peaceful demonstration. I think now we need to develop a culture in this country and defining what is the peaceful demonstration.
Yes.
Because the Constitution talks about you have a right.
And it happens in other countries, in other jurisdictions, and they have peaceful demonstrations.
But the moment you see people who now become thugs, they come around you and start harassing innocent people. These people are criminals.
Yes.
Whoever, I don't care whether they are businessmen or women coming from whichever political divide. I'm not interested. That's not my business. And I find it very strange that we can say that motorist must have been a Jubilee motorist. That person making that kind of a statement, we take exception to that. Because how do you know?
Yes.
And I think this country also we have to reach a point whereby we have to look at Esther. I have known her for a very long time. The fact that she is in Jubilee, she is in NASA. It's neither here or there. Mheshimiwa here, it doesn't matter whether he is in NASA. First and foremost, they are Kenyans. And any loss of life of a Kenyan, it is repugnant and must be condemned by every single one of us.
Yes.
And there should not be a question that, yes, so and so, if he judged somebody because he is NASA, then I'm NASA, I protect. So and so, because he is in Jubilee and he has judged somebody, I should protect. No. We are talking about civilized conduct.
Yes.
Of demonstration that must take into account the lives and property. The Constitution of the Republic of Kenya, one of the things it emphasizes is we must protect two things: the sanctity of life and the property. Now, anybody conducting himself otherwise, it doesn't matter whether it's your brother or a sister or is your political ally, that person is a danger to you
and a criminal.
I think,
and I think that I've seen a general attempt by legislators especially to try and have peaceful, less chaotic demonstrations. And I think that's where the problem comes in, that probably you do not have that capacity to ensure that these protests are civilized or are peaceful. The case in Kisumu, and you know we've been beaming those pictures live on TV, it is nothing but chaotic.
What I must say is that we need to look at the gravity of these demonstrations and the fact that we have a people or a government that is very insensitive to what Kenyans are saying. Because why would a government allow demonstrations to go on for a week? Or why would IBC officials stick in office for a whole week after Kenyans are demonstrating against them? What we should be seeing, and I think in civil societies, once citizens come out for a day against something, you most likely find that the people concerned would act and begin to address the concerns of the demonstrators. But here we have a case where some people are in office and they're basically displaying impunity. They're refusing to respond. And let me say that as time goes, as demonstrations go on, they become more intensified. And we are likely to see a lot of the impact will be diverse. It would be even grave, because we are talking about a presidential election that has been nullified, and we are talking about a repeat of that election, and people are passionate about all these things. So we are saying that, can we be a Kenya that can be sensitive and respond to
And the frequency is going up now. We understand now even Wednesday has been included, so yes. It's Monday, Wednesday.
It will go up, and I want to blame the business community, the genuine business community in this country. If why they are quiet, these things will go on, and I think at the end of the day, Kenya might just.
I mean, I think we have organizations like KEPSA who've also been involved during the post-election violence. They were on the table with us, the round table, and we saw emotive issues. You know, it was really sad to see how tribalism had played a key role, and poverty had played a key role in the way we erupted as a country. Now, today, I want to say something. When you look at yesterday's incidents, and this is sad for Kenya. When you look at Kenya, the incident yesterday, immediately after the details of the owner of the car were revealed, it was a Kikuyu name. All right? So straight away you think, oh, it's Jubilee, it's because of NASA. That's why he reacted this way. That's why he's short. That's why he'll get away with it. All right? When you look at the pictures of the business community that were robbing yesterday, those were not NASA supporters. We can tell you that for sure. Because I was in Nairobi, we walked around, we saw that gang, and we took the photographs. All right, so we know that that was not NASA. But at the end of the day, we need a country where it doesn't matter whether my name is Kamau or Omolo. We need a country where the rules apply for everyone equally, and this is where the police come in. Yesterday we had over 200 men trying to counter our demonstration if things went wrong. We should have had equal number of men from the police force trying to make sure that such disruptions should not happen, trying to mend the traffic. That accident should never have happened if the traffic cops were doing their job. So at the end of the day, let's have a team within the GSU unit, all right, okay, that actually ensure, their task is to ensure if there's an eruption, we deal with it. These are the group, their task is to ensure peaceful demonstrations. Okay. All right. Now, when you come to Kenya, and we're talking about the IBC, why is this government and the private sector not doing something about the fact that we are demonstrating? Let me tell you what, Okoa, Kenya, we needed just 1 million signatures to send us to a referendum to change the constitution. 1 million signatures. Say that Raila had 6.9 million votes. 6.9 million votes cannot get the government to think about sitting on the table to discuss the changes in IEBC. The changes that we want in IEBC is to ensure a free, fair and credible election. I still cannot understand why Uhuru Kenyatta is rushing this election, 17, 26, with the same people in office, right, when he knows so well that they are the ones who made sure that they did something wrong and he lost the election because of it. Right?
Let's take a break now. Let's take a break now. When we come back, we start delving into those matters, and I can see everyone is itching to
The president did not set the election date. He has no mandate.
Oh, come on. It's his birthday. He goes by the figure 8.
Will Raila quit repeat election? That's a big question today. We'll be discussing that after the break.